Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my therapy office. My name is Scott Carter. I'm a therapist that specializes in treating teenagers. I've been working with teens for close to 20 years now. I specialize in working with parents and teens to have better family relationships, more effective relationships. I'm deciding to make a lot of these videos centered around a lot of parenting issues, a lot of teen issues, because I'm noticing a continuing crisis in mental health with our teenagers, with the suicide rates going up. And to me, not coincidental that teens also have a greater gap between in their relationship with their parents. Kids are just not connecting with their parents, and kids are trusting their parents less. The relationships between teens and parents just continues to deteriorate. And I contend very strongly that your relationship with your teens should come first. Okay. But that's kind of a whole other topic. Like, what are the elements of a good relationship? Good, at least child-parent relationship. Being their friend is not necessarily the answer to that. Sometimes parents get too permissive. Sometimes parents just are too much of a friend, and when that happens, and parents want to be liked more than they want to help their kids, then that can be a bad combination too. But I also have some materials on using and incorporating different elements or archetypes, or wearing different hats, so to speak, to deal with certain situations and effective parenting. But that's kind of a whole other thing too. Anyways, today for this video, I want to talk about apparently the World Health Organization. I just heard this last night on the news. I decided to look into it. I put something on my Salt City Counseling Facebook page today about it. Gaming disorder. The World Health Organization has released a new mental health disorder that they're calling gaming disorder. Okay. So here are my thoughts, okay? I got to be honest. A couple years ago, I would have thought it was bogus. Now, unfortunately, it is. Boys especially are getting more and more and more involved with video games. Their lives are being consumed by video games. Now, I don't think anything should consume our lives completely. I don't care how fun it is. I really don't. It's important to not just let things consume us altogether. And boys, honestly, boys are failing out of life right now in general. I think I did a separate video about how the high school that I work with had the lowest percentage of graduated boys than they've ever seen. And boys are failing out of life. They have a failure to launch. I work with adult males that live with their parents because they have a failure to launch, struggling with employment, struggling to get in school, be successful in life. And honestly, a lot of them just play video games. Are video games addictive? Sure. I think the video games too these days, man, they're like a slot machine. You get different rewards. There's intermittent reward systems, and of course there's leveling up, and you're always wanting. And of course, video games are competing for sales, and so the more addictive they can make it, obviously the more money they make. And with that intermittent reward system, and you get the random dopamine hits when you play your game, and then you're just seeking that next one, that next win, that next ding ding dings, the ding ding dings, right? The slot machines give us. I think could be a good way to describe it. Slot machines give us the ding ding dings, and video games do that too now. The video games give us the ding ding dings, and I'm seeing more and more teenagers, teen boys, who are identifying as gamers. I mean, these are kids that they get home from school and they're playing video games for the next 6 hours, from 3 to 9 p.m. or sometimes more. Weekends, the kid disappears in his room, he's playing video games the whole time, and the parent is concerned about it. The parent brings them here, sits on that couch, and is like, yeah, this is a problem. Teen boys always tell me the same thing. Number one, I'm a gamer. That's just who I am. I'm a gamer. I hear this too. I want to be a professional gamer. By the way, there is a tiny percentage of people who are able to be professional gamers and make any money at it, and it's just so unrealistic. And I try to tell them this, they don't want to hear it. And I try not to lecture teenagers. It doesn't get me anywhere with them, so I really try not to lecture them. But it's important for boys to understand, like, the amount of time that you have to devote to a game to become professional at it before you even make any money at it. I mean, the time to pay ratio here is maybe fractions of pennies by the time it's said and done. And they also make the argument like, oh, I have a ton of online friends and I'm being social. And it's like, are you though? Because I'm convinced that it's that interaction, like the in-person interaction, the eye contact, the just that in-person interaction is what's being social. I'm just not convinced that having online friends is the same thing. I don't believe it is at all. I think it's important to be in person with somebody. Again, 2 years ago, a year ago even, I probably would have told you, I'm not so sure about the gaming addiction, and now I'm convinced. I have seen kids that like almost like a drug, like they have to go to it, they have to go to it, they have to go to it, and as soon as the parent, I've had parents who are like, I'm done, and they just confiscate the computer or the console, and the kids lose their minds. I mean, the parents come in and they're like, he lost it. He was screaming at me. He was calling me names. He was swearing. He was throwing things, throwing a fit. It's almost like seeing almost a withdrawal type symptom. So there's a couple of criteria for diagnosing an addiction. One of them is tolerance, and one is withdrawal. And the withdrawal stuff especially just seems to kind of be there. But here are my thoughts on how we address this. Can you restrict the video games? I mean, you can try. They're gonna go to somebody else's place and play them. Sooner or later they're gonna grow up and start playing them. And so I think that restricting things is just overall become kind of a failed strategy. Just taking things away, just restricting things has become a really failed strategy. I think there are better ways to approach it. But our boys are lacking purpose. Our boys are lacking identity. Our boys feel like they're worthless. I feel like it's easy for them to just fall into video games and just disappear from life, just check out of life. It is a problem. But I feel like if we try to address it in the same way that we normally do as a society, honestly, we kind of suck at solving problems. We just kind of do. And I think there are some really effective ways to address this with kids. Incentivize them, encourage them, give them other things to kind of transfer to, build some efficacy with them, which is just kind of basically their own independence and independently seeking good things on their own, and creating outcomes that they want. That's what efficacy is. There are going to be some more effective ways to deal with this, but I think just being hard on them and taking away the video games and freaking out is not going to get us there. The other thing that I really wanted to hit on with this video is I see a lot of people diagnosing things like addictions and ADHD who have no place doing so. Okay. Specifically, honestly, first and foremost, I love school teachers. I do. My mom was a teacher. I work with a high school. They're great people there. I love them up there. But teachers have got to stop diagnosing things like ADHD or like certain addictions. They have no place to do so. I did a video on ADHD, and please go watch it. If a teacher tells you that your kid has ADHD, then please tell them that, well, are you qualified to diagnose? No, they are not. In my area, religious leaders are notorious as well for labeling people with addictions. And I frequently encounter people that say, I have an addiction, according to whom my religious leader. Your religious leader is not someone who is qualified to make that distinction. They're not. Be cautious about labeling it yourself. Be cautious about giving labels in general. Don't just like, oh, you're addicted. We tend to start putting kids into these categories that seem like permanent conditions. You have a video game addiction, and suddenly in their minds it's like a permanent thing. It's like a permanent addiction. So those are some of my thoughts on video game addiction. Part of me is like, yeah, it needs to be identified. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be brought to the forefront. We need to be aware that this is a thing. However, please be conscientious and strategic about how you address it if this is an issue. So that's going to do it for me for this one. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can show me some love in all the ways that are kind of in the description below. Consider also, if you like my content, of becoming a patron on Patreon. I'm going to have some really, I believe, excellent and outstanding exclusive content for my online patrons. Stuff that's going to really benefit you. Specifically, I'm calling it the advice column. An opportunity for people to ask questions and have them addressed specifically. We can discuss the situation in some positive problem solving rather than just punishing and restricting. Can we please just stop punishing everything? It's not working. It's not working, folks. Anyways, that's going to do it. And my work day is over. I'm out of here. Hope everybody has a good one. See you next time.